So passwords are a funny thing. You're supposed to use a different one for every account you have, but the reality is a lot of people have a difficult time managing them and resort to using the same one all the time, or on the other end of the spectrum, they have so many different passwords, they're constantly resetting them. That happens to me. To help us understand what a secure password really is, we brought back Abby Stokes. Abby, nice to have you here. Abby has helped thousands of people conquer the fear of technology, and she's the author of Is This Thing On?
A computer handbook for late bloomers, technophobes, and the kicking and screaming.
There we go. All right, Abby, so today we're talking about passwords and how important is it to have a secure password?
It's very important. I mean, we're not probable targets, but I don't think the people who are going and hacking accounts are necessarily looking for who they're hacking. They're just trying to gather as many passwords as they can.
And we're talking not just email, this is credit card information,
yeah.
It's just about anything.
It's about anything. And the truth is you have passwords all over the internet because it's not just for shopping. If you want to join a newsletter, sometimes they ask you to put in a password. So it's hard to harness all of that information.
That's true. So how often should we be changing these passwords?
Well, you know, I want to be realistic. I mean, the most important time to change a password is when you have a feeling that you have been just subjected to some sort of hacking. If everybody tells you that a weird emails come from your email account, which has happened,
sure,
then you go change your password. Otherwise, if you changed it once a year, that would be very nice. Offices make you change it often, like every 3 months, but you don't have to do that really when you feel like it might be compromised.
Got it. All right, so we're going to talk about the simple rules here, the basics about passwords. You say at first they should be at least 8 characters long.
Right. You can have it longer than that, but 8 characters is the minimum. It should be a combination of letters and numbers, at least one letter or one number, and there should be at least one capital letter within them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And probably an obvious one is not to do your birthday or public dates.
The truth is 90% of passwords can be broken in 20 minutes or less because people use public information, birth dates, anniversary dates, your kids' names. So think of something that somebody doesn't know about you publicly that you'll never forget. And everybody says, I can't remember anything but that. What's your favorite food to eat? What do you shop for most? What did your dad do for a job? All of those things could be the core password that you use.
Got it. So we're going to take a look at some examples now of good passwords, and you're going to explain them to us and what makes them.
So the top password, I thought of you. I did great shoes.
Oh, thank you.
That's what you like to buy. So we just did great GR8 for the word great, which is sort of a simple way to do that.
To get that number in there too,
and
right?
Then, yeah, so make it great, whatever you like, chocolate. The second one says don't forget. So the word four makes the letter 4 makes the word 4, and then the E is just a flipped around 3. And the last one is backwards. My dad wrote children's books. So that says kids books. So you see how inventive you can be with something you really won't forget about yourself, but you can sort of configure it into a password.
All right, so when you're writing these passwords down, you're storing them.
Right, you're storing them somewhere. So the first thing is write down the password before you type it in, because it's easy in just that moment to forget one of the letters or numbers that you've chosen. So if you write it down, when you write it down, underline the capital letters that you choose because it's hard to determine those later on. When you do a 0 as opposed to an O, put a slash through the 0 so you can tell what it is later on, that it's not the letter O.
There you go.
And if it's a 1, put a little hook at the top and a platform at the bottom so it doesn't look like an L. That way when you look at the piece of paper a year from now, you go, oh, I actually know what the password is, as opposed to not being able to read it.
That makes sense. And you have a pretty unique system. So you kind of have similar passwords, but they're all different depending on what you're logging into.
Let's use your core of great shoes.
Okay.
Every website's website address, it doesn't change. Amazon's is always Amazon, USPS is always US Postal Service. So what if you chose 2 letters in every website, the same position, and you insert them into your password someplace in the same position? So if it was great shoes, you could have the A of Amazon at the beginning and the M at the end, and repeat that for every website. So in fact, you have a unique password.
That's brilliant. I love
but
that.
But a core password. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, so there are 5 words to look for to change an existing password.
Right, so you're going to look in the top right corner or the bottom of a website, preferences, options, manage, settings, or account, and that's where you go to change the password, because now you've got to change them all to whatever that good password is you just chose.
Great. Now, do you recommend keeping them on a piece of paper? Do you recommend keeping them in the phone? What do you think?
Well, you can keep them in your phone as long as your phone has a password.
Good point.
So, because you don't have it be easy for somebody to get. A piece of paper is great, but in this case, if we're using a core password like great shoes, you actually don't have to write it down.
Oh, because you'll know it each time you try to log in.
And you'll know what the pattern is. Yeah.
Very good. All right, let's walk over to the kitchen. And while we're doing that, tell us what else we can find in your book, Abby.
Well, along with passwords, we have things how you can safely shop. So we want to make sure that you're safe even when you're using your credit card. You can there's file management in there to organize your photographs. So we sort of give you from soup to nuts of how to organize your online life.
It's just so it's really not that intimidating.
It's not that, and it's not that. My mother read the whole book. She was my editor.
She's an expert now,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
All right, very good. So